Villains, baddies. No, not that kind. We're talking about liches, vampires, your big, bad, evil guy. Villains are one of the most important elements in a TTRPG campaign. What would Star Wars be without Darth Vader? Villains are literally what drives the story. Sure, your party will do stuff, but they're usually only doing it to stop the villain. Yet every GM has been there, staring at their dead BBEG, the players laughing and asking what loot they had. None of them even remembered his name. To them, he was nothing more than just a loot box with legs. Your villain was bad, but not in the way you wanted. How could this be? What are you, a Disney film? Well, have no fear, as in today's video, we're going to be going over a few narrative techniques to take your villains from zeros to certified baddies. Who keeps putting all these goth girls here? Oh, right, the engagement demon. Ugh. Speaking of engagement, you should subscribe. Alright, now onto the video. The first technique we'll be covering is one I call the Jimmy. I call it the Jimmy because it's about giving your party an NPC friend who absolutely gasses them up. Just like Jimmy Olsen from Superman. Though unlike Jimmy, this Jimmy isn't going to bag a muscle mommy. He's here for one purpose only, and that's to die. So to make his death mean anything, you need to make this guy the party's best friend and ally. He's the guy who, when they get thrown into a dungeon for a crime they didn't commit, slips them the key to escape, so they can clear their names. If the party doesn't like the king and thinks he's a pompous ass, then Jimmy agrees. He finds the party's jokes funny and is genuinely a pretty swell guy. This is where knowing your players as a DM really comes into its own. You'll know what motivates them, what they like about certain people. If your party's all a bunch of gooners, then honestly best to make Jimmy a big titty goth girl and flirt. If your party are all edgy bad boys, then Jimmy needs to care about their deeply emotional backstories. Or, if your party's not the stuff of nightmares, you can just make him a little cinnamon roll fella, like Jimmy Olsen. Then, after the party has truly come to love Jimmy, after they've had him turn up in adventures for months, after they've cried on his shoulder, laughed and possibly even loved him, the villain kills him. In a full display of the party. Bonus points if you can rig it so the party utterly fails to stop him. There needs to be no chance they can save him here or it ruins everything. We're talking Jimmy opens the door to the Lich's tomb and is immediately struck with a power word kill. The Lich teleporting away, cackling, taunting the heroes, how this was merely a trap, and next time he'll get them all. Then the whole room shakes, the dungeon is collapsing. Jimmy can't even get out his last words as he crumbles to dust in the party's arms. Delicious. The party will never forget this, and never forgive that Lich. They'll be talking about Jimmy and that Lich for years. I know because I've pulled stuff like this off. Bonus points if killing the Lich lets them bring back Jimmy. Bonus points if the Lich is using Jimmy's soul to power a monstrous mini-boss in the lead-up dungeon. The downside to the Jimmy method is you can only really do it once in a campaign. Doing it more than once is just asking for the party to become disillusioned with every NPC they talk to. Plus you have to be really sure the party loves him. And don't overuse him, otherwise he basically becomes a DMPC. Honestly, a good indicator is if when he shows up, the party cries his name in excitement, or someone goes, I love that guy. Have him show up once every other adventure to lend a hand. Or you have him act as the advisor to the king the party's working with, the go-between guy. That way he tends to be the one who gives them their rewards, their loot. Plus another major drawback is that this is a cheap trick. In comics they'd call it fridging, and rightfully so. We are just killing this guy for the sake of the pro tags. He exists to die. If you can, make Jimmy's death a natural consequence of the overall story. It will make the death far less cheap. There isn't necessarily anything wrong with a character existing just to die. Some characters need to die to further a story. Another good trick is players will often invent their own Jimmy. Think about how many times you've heard stories of parties adopting some weird little creature or an NPC into their gang. You can always just kill the party pet. If you're having a hard time making it natural, don't worry. So long as everyone is having fun at the table, who cares if the story's a little contrived? There's an altered path here, by the way, for a great villain, which is Dark Jimmy. Now, Dark Jimmy is where Jimmy is the villain. Hell, you can even still have him die, but reveal that he faked his death. Going back to our Lich example, you could reveal that Jimmy was the Lich all along, in disguise. and that him dying was really just him returning his soul to his proper vessel. You then show how all the artifacts the party have been gathering across the entire campaign were for Jimmy's evil ritual to annihilate all life in the kingdom. The main problem with Dark Jimmy is it can be a bit of a rug pull. It takes a lot of skill to sow the seeds that this guy might be evil while also making him the party's best bud. So only go for this if you're confident in your characterization abilities. Try to keep it subtle. Maybe Jimmy's a bit too harsh when the party is ragging on the pompous but overall good king. The other big problem with Dark Jimmy is it doesn't leave you a lot of time to develop his villainous personality. If he's been putting up a front and hiding the real him, then the party has only really had the time he's been revealed to get to know what he's really like. Sure, the betrayal will carry them a lot of the way, but you don't want to have a Disney twist villain. This can obviously be fixed by giving him plenty of time to stretch his villainous legs, but then you're right back at the original problem that you clicked on this video for. How do I develop my villain? Let's talk about another technique you can employ for your villain, which I call making them an untouchable. This is where you make it so the party can't harm the villain. This can be done by having a magic amulet that renders them immune to harm, or by having them simply so powerful they catch every blade and spell that comes at them. This then means they can have a lot of run-ins with the party without fear of looking like a chump. Especially in games like DnD 5e, where so often your big bad evil guy just gets jumped by the party and nuked into the ground because of action economy. In these run-ins, they can leer over the party. Hell, they can even ignore them, casually brushing them aside. This works so well for supremely arrogant villains. Bonus points if the villain themselves is just like a regular guy too. Imagine just some skinny-robed mob boss pushing past a 12-foot tall barbarian who literally can't do anything about it. With an untouchable, the primary adventure to defeat them is usually finding a way to get around their invincibility. This tends to be find some magic doodad that counters theirs, or it could be sealing them away. Sealing away also has the bonus that the villain can come back 3 campaigns down the line, and players will lose their shit over it. Now, the main problem with an untouchable is making them not be frustrating. Literally going, no, you can't do anything isn't fun. So you have to use these guys sparingly. Interactions need to be short, impactful, and not very likely to evolve into a pointless fight. A good idea is the party has just made it through a grueling dungeon. The Gem of Zul'Gathar is on the dais ahead of them, surrounded by vines and mottled stone bricks. They've just fought against the great dragon Nixstar that was guarding it. Everyone's badly beat up, bleeding and bloody, and badly in need of a rest, but they've done it. Then, suddenly, shadowy bonds burst from the ground, pinning the party to the floor as our untouchable saunters in. They graciously thank the party for their cooperation, plucking up the gem off the dais, turning to lord it over their defeated foes for a moment before teleporting away. Yet the villain didn't loot the treasure room, in which the party found some powerful loot. Loot they can now use to plot their revenge as they go and heist his castle to get the gem back. Another great way of building up the untouchable is having the party encounter the consequences of his plan. The tavern they once drank in, now burnt to the ground by his men. They get their pockets picked by thieves, working for him. If everything going wrong in their lives is his fault, and they can't do anything to him, they will hate his guts. Plus, this does allow them to feel like they're doing something against him. His henchmen aren't invincible, so turning those thieves into paste will make the party feel a lot better. Though there's nothing more satisfying than finally breaking an untouchable's invincibility and watching their smug smirk fade away. A quick extra point here. If a member of your party will not give up attacking the untouchable, then you need to not be afraid to kill them. If you want my advice, at a certain point, you tell the player OC, hey, you can't hurt this guy, and if you keep going, you're gonna die. If they ignore all their warnings, you can't really do much except kill them without completely destroying the villain's credibility. Though, a death at the hands of the untouchable is a really great opportunity to show off just how untouchable he is. And if you want the person's death to have a bunch of impact, you can let them inflict a little scar, a cut on the cheek, something small like that. If we combine this with the Jimmy, then we see an obvious combo, that being Jimmy is the one who dies at the hands of the Untouchable, demonstrating the Untouchable's invincibility, and giving the party a huge motivation to take him down. And you can always draw attention back in the final showdown to that little scar on his cheek. Last but not least, let's talk about Charmers. These villains work more like rivals than your traditional villain. They're fun and chatty, bantering with the party as they screw them over. These guys are dashing rogues and treasure hunters who beat the party to the punch. Though they don't want to kill the party, they certainly won't stick their necks out for them. A good example of this is a party pulling a heist, robbing a bank, only to find out our Charmer robbed it first and set them up to take the blame, Ocean's 12 style. These guys work really well if they have a connection to a player. Maybe they are the rogue's ex-boyfriend, or double-crossed one of the party in the past. This lets you employ a lot of the techniques you might use for Jimmy, making them likeable, but having them hinder or double-cross the party. They should pretty much never be exchanging blows with the party though. These types of villains are all smiles and snappy quips. When it comes to a fight, they should only really go for their guns if they have no other option. If your party corners a Charmer, he really should give up the artifact he stole, using it as a distraction to make a daring escape. A classic, you want the artifact, go get it. If your party is actively talking about killing this guy, then you're messing up something with your characterization. Try and do a team up where he helps the party get some good loot. Giving players shiny objects always seems to bring them round to an NPC. Uncharted or Tomb Raider are great sources of inspiration here. Another great use for them is as lead-up villains, working for someone actually evil and malicious. Whether they live or die working for this bigger bad is optional. Them living though usually means they're going to become a reluctant good guy and a party ally. Them dying usually serves to prove how ruthless our bigger bad is. Their lack of villainy in many ways serves to make the bigger bad look more evil. It gives the party a clear comparison. Perhaps our Charmer is working for the Untouchable. They can even be the reason the Untouchable becomes invulnerable, dying in front of the party as they hand over that last item for the Untouchable's nefarious plan. These techniques though are just rough guides. They're not hard rules to stick by. You'll also probably notice a lot of them are akin to TV tropes, looking to media and analysing what makes your favourite villains work is a treasure trove of ideas for campaigns. Plus, always remember there's no one-size-fits-all solution in TTRPGs. Communication is the cornerstone of any role-playing game. Don't be afraid to talk to your players and see what they like, what works for them, and so on. Plus, trust in yourself. You know your players better than me. You might be surprised at what you can pull off if you believe in yourself. See you all next time. Ciao!